If you filed a grievance at work and it failed, what next? Let's talk about what your options are, what you might expect to happen next, and how to put yourself in the best position for trying to get that issue resolved. The first thing to know is that everyone in the UK has the right to a grievance appeal with a workplace grievance. You can check your employee handbook, or if you don't have an employee handbook, Google this, ACAS Code of Practice for Disciplinaries and Grievances. That is the minimum that all UK employers need to follow, and that includes the ability for you to appeal a grievance and your employer having to investigate that appeal. But let's assume that that appeal fails, because they often do, because employers aren't good at judging themselves. What then? What options do you have to try and get this issue resolved? So if you're in this situation, the phrase I want you to think about all the time is legal leverage. And when I say legal leverage, what I mean is that you want to maintain the option to make this legal, to take this to tribunal, even if you don't actually intend to do it. And that's because you want your employer to take this seriously. And there are few things that an employer will take more seriously than the cost, reputational, potential damage, and just time involved in an employment tribunal. And if they think that you have a potential case at tribunal and that they might have to spend a lot of time and money defending it and maybe even lose that case at the end, then hopefully they will come to the negotiating table with you earlier and try and either resolve the issue in the workplace or settle with you to make the problem go away. But the thing is, if you are post-grievance, you are in a danger zone for maintaining that legal leverage. And that is because you only have 3 months minus 1 day after the bad thing happened at work to actually start the tribunal process. Notice I said start the tribunal process. You don't actually have to make a tribunal claim, but you do have to start ACAS early conciliation, which is the first step you have to take. Now, ACAS early conciliation can be very helpful. It's basically ACAS as an organization trying to prevent tribunal claims by helping employers and employees to come to some kind of resolution. So you submit the document online, ACAS gets in touch, they ask you questions about what you want, what's happened, and then they approach the employer and see if the employer wants to negotiate and if you can come to a resolution there and then. While that is happening, the clock, that 3 months minus 1 day, is paused. And it means that during that entire process, you have preserved your legal leverage. The threat, the possibility of an employment tribunal case still exists, which hopefully would increase the likelihood that the employer would take it seriously. Now, ACAS early conciliation doesn't always work. One or both of you might decide to opt out of it, or you might try to come to some kind of a settlement or resolution, but one or more of you might not want to do it. And in that case, ACAS will then give you the information that you need to file an employment tribunal claim. And typically you'll have a month after they give you that information to actually make the claim. So that's legal leverage in terms of timing, maintaining the option to go to tribunal. The other legal leverage that you can have while you're at that negotiating table with your employer is making sure that you have a clearly articulated, strong claim. Now, the employment tribunal uses very specific language for the very specific things that you can take an employer to tribunal for. It's not mistreatment, it's unfair dismissal. It's not discrimination, it's direct discrimination on the basis of gender. And the closer that you can get to that specific legal language and the clearer that you can be about how you fulfill that criteria, the more leverage you will have. I've seen in so many situations where somebody will basically send like a really, really big document to the employer listing out every single thing that was bad that happened and say, look, this is my strong case. Don't you want to settle with me? But that's not what wins employment tribunal cases. Employment tribunal cases are won by clearly defined legal claims with the events that support that claim underneath them, backing them up. So if you have failed your grievance and you want to do something about it, you want to take those next steps, you want to present a strong front against your employer, then work on understanding and identifying what legal claims you might have. And that's the two parts of legal leverage. One, making sure that you are in time, and two, making sure that those legal claims are clearly articulated as early as you possibly can so that your employer knows that you know what's going on and they are going to be facing a strong tribunal claim, not just somebody airing their grievances to the tribunal. So if your grievance failed and if your grievance appeal failed and you don't know what to do next, check the timelines, make sure that you are within that 3 months minus 1 day, look at ACAS early conciliation, and look at defining those claims as clearly as you possibly can. And if you need help with the third one, we are here to help. We have a service called Merits Assessment, where one of our coaches can have a look at your case and work with you to try and clearly define those legal claims so that you're able to present that strong front to your employer. The link is in the usual place and you can check it out there.